I found out about the betrayal on a Thursday night. My daughter, Lily, was in the kitchen, laughing. The kind of laugh that didn't belong in a house that smelled like medicine and hospital bills. I was upstairs, moving slower these days, the ache in my chest a quiet metronome reminding me I didn't have long. I wasn't supposed to hear them, her and Adam, but sickness sharpens the senses. He said, once she's gone, it's all ours. She didn't correct him, she just said, soon. That word stayed in my veins like poison. I'd built my company from a garage and a bad idea. 40 years of missed dinners, sleepless nights, and one failed marriage. When the doctor told me I had maybe 6 months, I decided to sell. Quietly. $8 million wired into a private account only I knew about. My plan was to tell Lily later, maybe leave her enough to make life gentle. But when I heard that conversation, I realized I'd been raising an actress. Lily used to climb into my lap after school, ink on her fingers from the stories she'd write. She wanted to be like me, driven, clever, unbreakable. Somewhere along the way, she married Adam, and I watched the light in her turn strategic. He had that polished charm, the kind that hides rot underneath. I'd seen men like him in business, smiles too perfect, hands that only reached for what benefited them. Still, I ignored it. I wanted to believe love could redeem her. After that Thursday, I stopped taking my medication, not to die faster, but to see how they'd react. Within days, Lily was hovering. Adam kept asking about my will, my company, my assets. He even tried to get me to sign something just in case. I played weak, frail, confused. I let them think they were in control. That's when I started planning. I called my lawyer, Jonathan, a man who owed me more favors than he'd admit. I told him to transfer my estate, house, car, everything visible, to Lily's name. But the money? That would go somewhere else. We drew up new documents, sealed and notarized. Jonathan didn't ask questions. He knew better. Then I made one more call, to a friend who worked in real estate. I asked him to find me a small apartment downtown, something anonymous, paid in full, and under a different name. A month from now, I told him, I'll disappear. I wanted to watch them celebrate my death. 2 weeks later, I staged my collapse. Right there at the breakfast table, mid-sentence. My body did half the acting for me. The ambulance came, the hospital admitted me, and when Lily and Adam arrived, I saw relief behind their tears. It was almost beautiful how quickly greed strips away humanity. That night, I signed myself out against medical advice and went to the apartment. Quiet, alone, alive. The news reached them the next morning. Elderly entrepreneur passes away after brief illness. Jonathan handled everything exactly as instructed. Funeral, obituary, death certificate. I watched it all from a distance. They buried an empty casket. A week after my death, Jonathan invited them to his office for the reading of the will. He recorded the whole thing for me. I wish I could have seen their faces in person when they heard the words, I, Margaret Hale, leave my entire estate to my daughter Lily. However, my financial assets, including proceeds from the sale of Hale Innovations, have been donated to the Children's Cancer Research Foundation. Adam's voice cracked first. Lily's followed. Jonathan handed them a checkbook for the house, worth maybe $200,000. I imagine the silence that followed, how he probably blamed her, how she probably blamed him. That was my real inheritance to them, each other. 3 months later, I saw them again. I was sitting in a cafe across town, scarf around my neck, wig covering the chemo-thinned hair. They walked in by chance, arguing in low, bitter tones. She looked tired. He looked mean. They didn't notice me. For a moment, I almost pitied her. But pity is a luxury for the deceived, not the avenged. Now, I live quietly. No mansion, no company boardrooms. Just peace. The money is still there, untouched. Maybe I'll use it one day. Maybe not. It's not about the money anymore. It's about knowing that I won. That when they plotted my death, I was already writing their ending. They thought my illness made me weak, but sickness only stripped away my illusions. It showed me who deserved my silence and who deserved my absence. And when I left them behind, buried beneath their own greed, I finally understood something simple, something sharp. Sometimes, the only way to teach a lesson is to let them believe they got away with it, until they realize they were never in control, not for a single second.